Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russell Brand, you conspiracy theorist. Hopefully you're watching this outside of the UK and therefore do not require a VPN, because the Online Safety Act in the UK ushers in the police state that clearly is the target and intention of Keir Starmer's Labour government. Let me know what you think about that in the comments and chat, because additionally, the challenge faced by the Labour Party in the UK is that globally, people have an appetite for freedom and for radical change. Trump's visit to the UK has highlighted that. Hey, thanks Timcast for the raid. Thanks Mug Club for the raid. Assuming that we've had one, we'll be with you for the next hour talking about issues that matter to you, and as freely and as openly as can only be afforded by Rumble. If you're watching us on YouTube or X, join us on Rumble. And if you ain't got Rumble Premium yet, get it now so that you get additional content from me, Glenn Greenwald, Crowder, Tim Pool, Kim Iverson, a whole host of people, Dave Rubin. And I feel like he goes on a long holiday in August. You're right there, beloved Jake.
I'm doing so good.
We're going to do a live show later on today at a secret and undisclosed location as we move into a new era ourselves. I'm joined also by beloved Isaac. You okay? Are you all right? Everything okay? You've got some... Yeah, good. Okay, well, it seems like we're in fine spirits. Let's address the issues of the United Kingdom. Is the UK officially a police state? And how does a police state deal with a figure that some regard as the ultimate authoritarian and others as a symbol of living freedom? Let's have a look. So the Labour Party support for VPN restrictions after Online Safety Act fail. It's the government in the UK are thinking of banning VPNs. Let me know what you think about that. Let's have a look at some of the other countries that have banned VPNs over the years. North Korea, Belarus, Turkmenistan, Iran and Iraq. Interesting. This is Rob Moore on the UK. Britain is now a police state and no one's talking about it. The online safety bill is anything but safe. It's a Trojan horse for mass surveillance. Here's how the UK spies on you right now. Every phone call, text and email can be stored under the Investigatory Powers Act. Your browsing history is saved for at least a year, even if you've done nothing wrong. Your location is constantly tracked by your mobile provider, your mobile phone provider, cell phone in your language. Face recognition cameras are everywhere without your consent. Smart TVs and devices are listening. Your social media posts are scraped, analysed and fed to algorithms. Banks are now being asked to flag unusual transactions. Even buying gold or crypto apps like WhatsApp could be forced to break encryption for your protection. The government demand access to your private messages without telling you. How extraordinary. It's the perfect time for Donald Trump to be visiting the UK, and it's been an extraordinary, and for the leader of the UK, embarrassing visit. Here are some of the highlights of his recent press conference with Keir Starmer, where Trump, in customary fashion, is able to demonstrate pretty primitive power dynamic moves that are kind of enjoyable for those of us that have got some kind of grievance against Keir Starmer. Let's get into it. The BBC, of course, the propaganda state-funded, tax-funded media unit within the UK, extracted all of the embarrassing moments that came up during the press conference between Trump and Starmer, and therefore I guess it was pretty short. Just watch the BBC, says Lee Harris on X. They left out everything that embarrassed Starmer, and my word, there was a lot. Some people have noticed that even though Trump is visiting the UK, it somehow seemed like Trump was welcoming Starmer. How can that happen? Would that have happened under Churchill? I very much doubt it. He's got bagpipes, he's got himself a house. Here are some of my favourite moments from the conversation. He talked about Sadiq Khan, who's the mayor of London, who previously, a few years ago, when Trump was making a visit, I think during his 2016 presidency term, the term in which he was elected in 2016, and I feel like Sadiq Khan participated in protests in which a giant inflatable Trump baby was floated above London as part of a kind of present ridicule device for his visit. Now, though, crowds have turned up in London to welcome Trump. No one's pretending Trump's not a divisive figure, and loads of people in the UK, whether they're from the left or whether they believe in progressive identity politics, despair despair of Donald Trump. You know that my own affection for Donald Trump is born of the fact that he opposes many ideas that I myself, and I feel like you are opposed to. Manipulative media, centralized control. And whilst now we have Trump in power, a lot of questions being asked, we'll be answering some of them over the course of this conversation. And if you want a comparison to clinically trial against Trump, you don't need to look any further than the UK, where rampant authoritarianism dressed as concern and compassion is at an all-time high. The online safety bill being but one example. In order to protect you, in order to protect children, we're going to monitor you, spy on you and censor you. And with people being arrested and even incarcerated for free speech crimes, we know that the UK government are serious on clamping down on freedom, not threats to children. Let's have a look at this moment where Trump interrupts Keir Starmer in a forthright manner.
You mentioned Canada. I think you're trying to find a divide between us that doesn't exist. We're the closest of nations, and we had very good discussions today, but we didn't discuss Canada.
Thank you. Please. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes.
Well, that's amazing. He doesn't like him. He sort of personally doesn't like him. That was very simian, wasn't it? That interjection, that was like apes quarrelling over a piece of fruit. Let's have a look at this moment here where Keir Starmer tries to interject with the claim that Britain is a forebear and bastion of free speech.
What's important to free speech today?
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
Nothing to worry about when it comes to the old free speech. I've been free speaking all morning. I free speaked my way here. I've been free speaking at the podium. I'll have a little free speech chin wag.
Trump interjects on the subject of online censorship with particular regard to his own site, Truth Social.
President, you have a successful social media site. There are new powers here to censor your site, state-mandated powers.
To censor my site?
To censor your site and Twitter
Truth?
and Facebook.
Truth?
I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children.
We've got measures. They're there to protect children. You've got to protect them. Kids are going on Truth Social day and night, being confronted with pictures of winky woos, bottoms, titty boobs. I think I saw a dick bird there last Wednesday. We've got to protect these poor children. And in order to protect children, you've got to flood the place with undocumented migrants. You've got to arrest everyone. You've got to allow water companies to pollute the very water that they're charged with regulating and providing to the British public. All these things are required to protect children. Also, an injunction that I've placed on the British media, that's to protect children as well. It's got nothing, and I can't say this clearly enough, nothing to do with Ukrainian models that firebomb my house. Why do people keep talking about those Ukrainian models that firebomb my house? I'll firebomb you. Do you want a tough guy? I'll firebomb you up the Jack Jones, I will. I'll firebomb you up your pipsqueaks. You'll get what's coming to you, Trumpkin.
In particular from sites like suicide sites. We've had too many cases in the United Kingdom of young children taking their own lives, and when you look through their social media, they've been accessing.
Do you know how this works? This is how it works. They have to legitimise new online safety measures or control measures. They need the ability to censor, and this is kind of conversation will take place. Wow. How are we going to legitimise censoring people when the technology affords immediate, instantaneous, global communication, which is a massive problem for us because control of information and power equate to the same thing. If you can't control information, you can't consolidate power unless you are governing truly by consent and you have an electorate or population that broadly supports you. We don't have that in the UK. We need to control information. How are we going to legitimately do that? What if we tell people it's to protect children? No, they won't be stupid enough to believe that. No, come on, what we'll do is we'll have a spate of media stories seeded by our compliant partners in media about child suicide, child pornography, or anything to do with the protection of children. And then what we'll do is we'll exploit people's natural tendency to want to protect children in order to get them to bow down to our power. Do you not see the ingenuity of it? We don't have to tell them we're doing it to consolidate power that you would never consent to if you understood its true corrupt nature. If they found that out, they would disobey. They would rise up. Let's tell them that if they don't agree with this bill, it's tantamount to not protecting their children. We can turn those instincts against them. Don't you see the ingenuity? These conversations take place. That's why marketing trends alter in alignment with political trends and cultural trends. You know, I prefer an advertisement for American Eagle that has Sydney Sweeney in it than one that doesn't, but I won't make the mistake of thinking that American Eagle or any other corporation, my friend, they exist to sell you a product, and they'll sell you a product any way they can. You might consider that less nefarious than a government selling you an idea that is detrimental to your well-being and your understanding of reality, and you would be right. Of course, the UK government selling you an online safety act, inverting commas, when in fact it's a censorship bill, is much worse than any number of corporations that will 1 minute have a gay flag on their logo, 1 minute have a Black Lives Matter logo, another minute support Ukraine, another moment support Palestine, another minute support Israel. They don't care about any of it. Why should they care about any of it, though? They're not governments. They're selling products. And it's our obligation and duty to separate our loyalty and fealty from people and places that we actually love from a bunch of brands that are selling us products and a bunch of governments that are there to simply control you. They don't care if you live or die. All they care about is whether or not they can control you. That's just what I think, though. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. And this is another example of why I prefer Donald Trump over other politicians, while acknowledging that Donald Trump is pretty far from perfect, and as long as he's existing within corrupt institutions and systems, he'll continue to ultimately follow the flow and patterns of other powerful patriarchal figures and political leaders. The reason I like him is because you're not going to get Joe Biden or Kamala Harris going and digging Keir Starmer out live on your TV set for perfect amusement. You're not going to get your X feed lit up with moments of like Keir Starmer squirming around like someone who's got some sort of hemorrhoid condition induced by Lord alone knows what. Let's get back to it.
Sites which talk about suicide and encouraging, if you like, children down that road, and that is what we want to stop. Nothing about censoring free speech.
Joining us from Mug Club, welcome. Thanks Stephen Crowder and all you guys over at Mug Club. If you're watching us anywhere other than Rumble, make your way over. We're speaking freely about what the encounter between Trump and Keir Starmer demonstrates. Firstly, what it demonstrates is Keir Starmer is not a person that should be in a position of leadership unless you think people in positions of leadership should be utterly malleable servants of global imperialist systems of total control that ultimately don't care about democratic sovereignty. He is not the Prime Minister of the UK. He is a WEF, WHO, NATO, UN, even EU, in spite of Brexit, stooge. That's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments.
That treats all adults like
this
children.
This country is proud.
But that can treat all adults like children.
Free speech in this country has been for a very long time. We're very, very proud of it.
We've got so much free speech. How many times do I have to tell you we've got free speech?
Why do these people keep getting jailed for saying stuff like I'm concerned about migration?
Because that's not bloody well very free at all, is it?
Like, you are free to say anything that falls within the parameters and paradigm of their preferences. If you start talking outside of that, if you start communicating ideas that are detrimental to the hegemony of these systems of power in the UK, you will learn fast that your speech ain't free, and they'll do whatever it takes to prohibit, inhibit, and delete your ability to openly communicate. I know this from some personal experience.
We're very, very proud of it. We will protect it forever. But at the same time, I personally feel very strongly that we should protect our young teenagers, and that's what it usually is, from things.
I want to protect the old young teenagers. I see myself a young teenager just earlier. I thought I'd better protect it. Here it go. Look, it might fall in a ditch. Oh no. Oh good Christ, it's going to kill itself, that poor little young teenager. Who among us, after living through COVID or the phony wars or the constant taxation or the manipulative and mind-dulling media, believes that these people have anything other than their own concerns front and centre, like a ridiculous erection that they ludicrously worship? They don't care
care about you. You know that. How can we keep entering into their ludicrous illusions? We can't, can we?
From things like suicide sites. I don't see that as a free speech issue. I see that as a child protection
We
issue.
actually passed a bill in Congress, headed up by my wife, actually, which was to pull bad stuff out having to do with children, because it is a problem. But I cannot imagine him censoring Truth Social. That's more of a very political, and it's been a very big success.
It's not going to happen.
And I only say good things about him and his country, so if they censor me, you're making a mistake. I'm going to give my ambassador the job, make sure it's not censored. I had not heard that.
Imagine his little sweaty bottom as he just sits in that armchair, squirming and sweating, fretting and panicking, knowing that the truth is coming for him.
Crisis, Mr. President. How would you deal with it? What's your advice on dealing with the small boats crisis in this country? The small boats
It's
crisis.
about the boats coming over the channel, so we're taking a lot of action to stop people coming over the channel who should.
Taking a lot of action to stop people coming over the channel.
Look at the dynamic. Look at how ultimately the true dynamic has asserted itself. Starmer, bureaucrat, middle management figure, apparently rather impressive when he was head of the CPS, although they didn't do a great deal to help Jimmy. They didn't do a great deal to protect Julian Assange, and they didn't do a great deal to prosecute Jimmy Savile, the rampant paedophile and apparent servant of the elites. Extraordinary that took place under Keir Starmer's watch. Here he is returned to his rightful position as a kind of acolyte and underling of someone like Trump, who, whether you like him or not, emanates a kind of chief power.
The channel who shouldn't be here, stopping them coming in the first place.
Well, look, immigration is a big factor, and I think, frankly, if they're coming from other countries and you don't know who they are, and are they coming from prisons? We have them where they came in from prisons. We're moving them all out. We had a border last June, last month. We had 0 people come into the country, 0, other than coming through legal means.
The subject of immigration remains a contentious one, because arguments can certainly be made that as one global human family, we have an obligation to care for and love one another. I think it's ridiculous that claim is made, though, by governments that plainly exist in order to control and exploit and perpetuate their own power, which they'll do however they can. What's not contentious is that you need food to live, and in order to have food, you need farmers, unless we, of course, kowtow to Bill Gates, who would have us eating near plastic lab-grown flesh. For now, at least, we need farmers to feed ourselves. And across Europe and across the world, there seems to be an attempt to centralise control over agriculture and to break the spirits of the farming community, in my country I'm talking about, and to destroy their ability to operate through various taxation methods and apparent climate change control initiatives that don't seem to do a great deal to protect or preserve or help the planet, but do a lot to disempower farmers. That subject came up as well during Starmer and Trump's set of public appearances that accompany his visit to the UK. What's fascinating about this is the same way that during the Canadian trucker protests, we were invited to assume that truck drivers in Canada had all become mad, giddy, hopeless, Nazi racists. In the UK at the moment, we have to engineer internal feelings of hatred against farmers, not to acknowledge that what's happening is part of a globalist decree to control food. It's important, I reckon, that we are able to keep a macro perspective on these geopolitical and global themes like control, centralised bureaucratic control and distraction from the efforts to achieve that control, as well as the sort of more amusing dynamics between Trump and Starmer. Here, the subject of agriculture and the agricultural protests come up. Let's have a look.
We have a lot of unhappy. We have a lot of unhappy.
Who are you with? Because you're asking such a nice question.
Sorry, GB News. Bev Turner from GB News.
Very good.
We have a lot of unhappy farmers in this country at the moment, and I'm sure the Prime Minister won't thank me for raising this. We've had changes to inheritance tax, which mean a lot of farmers feel they're going to lose their farms when they die or their father dies. How important are farmers to a country?
You mean they're going to lose the farm because of estate taxes?
Correct. So that when they die, they'll have to pay so much. They're cash poor, but they have great properties.
I know. Well, they're cash poor. They're land rich and cash poor. A lot of people are. I've had that too. Sometimes I'm land rich and cash. Sometimes I'm cash rich and land poor. I like it both ways, but as I get older, I like the more conservative. So I did something that I don't know if you can do, but it was great. I love our farmers. as you know, in our tax bill, we have a clause that's very important.
Somebody, please ask Ja Rule. That's good. That's a comment in the Rumble chat. If you're watching us anywhere other than Rumble, join us over on Rumble if you're on X or if you're on YouTube. We're looking at Donald Trump's visit to my country, the UK, and the embarrassing collision of ideas that has emerged. How do you feel about nativism, patriotism, America first, UK first? Certainly there's a resurgence in national pride and patriotism that I suppose is an understandable response to globalism and the kind of boring, tedious, bureaucratic tyranny that it engendered. All the while they're telling you that they care about you, that they're here to protect you, whether that's the online safety bill or the way they handled COVID or the way they handle migration. Increasingly, people are rejecting those ideas, thankfully. One of the most interesting moments to emerge from these set of public appearances was their discussion about Sadiq Khan, who's the current mayor of London, who Keir Starmer says is a personal friend of his, which is interesting, actually. Donald Trump, though, he don't like Sadiq Khan because Sadiq Khan participated in a bunch of protests last time Trump was in office. So that subject came up. Here's how they handled it. Let's check it out.
Will you visit London during the state visit?
I will. I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job. The mayor of London, but the nasty person. I think he's done. I think he's
a friend of mine, right?
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
Oh dear, it's so awkward and embarrassing. It's difficult not to feel some compassion for Keir Starmer when you see his ineptitude and inability to deal with the easy intensity of Donald Trump. Keir Starmer, I suppose, the reason that I feel not animosity towards him, but steep cynicism is because I know that while he was at the CPS, he could have intervened when it came to the various forms of incarceration pertaining to Julian Assange there, who was holed up in an embassy for 5 years and then bail-marched for 5 years without trial simply because he revealed embarrassing secrets about both the United States government and the UK government. And always really it comes down to the machinery behind what we regard as power, a mere edifice with interchangeable figures like Keir Starmer at their forefront. And it's interesting for me to see Keir Starmer exposed to the awkwardness that comes when you're around someone who handles power rather better than he does. Sino Free asks, do you feel like he's a WEF puppet? You're asking that about Keir Starmer, of course. Well, he did say that he preferred Davos, the home of the WEF, to Westminster, the home of the British government. And we're in a really unique and interesting moment in British power and British politics because we have an unpopular government with no election coming, not for a couple of years unless they call a snap urgent or early one. We have the rise of Nigel Farage and reform. I think more importantly than that, we have a sense in the UK that neither of these political movements, the left or right, are going to lead to anything other than the further ossification of old establishment power. People want something new, and peculiarly that might mean something arcane, something deep and old, a return to God, a return to Christ. Certainly there's signs of a revival in the UK, people going to Roman Catholic churches and Pentecostal churches and abandoning the false belief that worldliness can fulfill you. In a way, I always felt that Trump was a kind of figure that was born out of the tides of time. He showed us where American culture is. He showed us that the collision of entertainment and politics and commerce was always going to create someone that had chops in all three of those areas, a perfect orator and creature for his time. Similarly, Keir Starmer, this grey and somewhat tepid bureaucratic figure, tells you where British power is and where British politics are. Having crushed Jeremy Corbyn and a left-wing movement that was somewhat populist and certainly authentic, the left doesn't know what it is other than a bureaucratic servant of global imperial power. The right under Boris Johnson fell apart while in office and will likely ultimately end up being claimed by Nigel Farage. I presume Reform and the Conservative Party will align and mesh at some point, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'm no expert in this. But whatever outcome we receive through the current conduits of power, it will amount to more of the same unless we're willing to confront the systems and institutions of power themselves. I wonder how you, my beloved friends here in America, feel about the ongoing cynicism from the left, and how that is facilitated further by the failure to release the Epstein files, or the ongoing wars, or what seems to be a kind of inertia in global politics that's very difficult to interrupt. We'll be talking about that in more length later, but for now, on Trump's visit to the UK, it's pretty clear that what it does is exposes the unpopularity of Keir Starmer, the failure of contemporary bureaucracies when it comes to dealing with the complexity of migration, new media, and censorship, and ultimately that the British people need at least an election and potentially a revolution. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Before we proceed with the terrible shooting story in New York, we're going to have a quick word from one of our partners. See you in a second. The world is divided socially, politically, culturally, economically, maybe even in your own genitalia, if you're Brigitte Macron. We need to understand the financial markets. We've been lied to. We've been distracted. We've been controlled. If you know me, you know I don't understand finance, Bitcoin. I don't understand cryptocurrencies. I don't understand the Federal Reserve. I don't understand the deficit. I didn't understand the 2008 global crash where they bundled together subprime mortgages to exploit the ordinary people of America, a crime that has still not seen anybody arrested or charged. What I do know, though, is that there are ways that Robin Hood organisations can get together to empower you to make sensible investments now. And that's where Alio Capital comes in. Wouldn't it be great if there was an investment app that was designed by people that understand a macro perspective and how global events affect your finances? Yes, please. Now you can have the power in the palm of your hand with the Alio Capital app powered by Altitude AI, which identifies shifts in inflation, interest rates, and global risk, then adapts portfolios in real time. Alio is designed for hands-on or hands-off investors. Macro investing for people who want to understand the big picture. Download their app in the App Store or at Google Play, or text my name, Russell. This is the simplest one. If you're like me and you don't understand technology and you want to be stinking rich and you want to take advantage of Alio app, text my name, that's Russell, RUSSELL, see it now on the screen, to 511. 511. Download the Alio app or text Russell to 511 511 today. Investing involves risks. Of course it does. Everything involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. What? You won't catch me losing mine, baby. Past performance does not guarantee results. See terms and conditions. Text fees may apply. This is a paid advertisement for Alio Capital. Alio Capital, making investment easy for people like me who just don't have the time to be a George Soros or a Warren Buffett or any of them guys, but would still like to be stinking rich. So text my name to 511 511 and join the Alio revolution. All right, you lot, let's tackle this rather challenging and sad story about these murders in New York. Let's have a look at what the legacy media are saying about it.
Scene showing you here, John's reporting that they do know what he looks like, male, possibly white, mustache, sunglasses, in that building, isolated to, they believe, to various locations, including upper floors, is where they're focused. What are you learning, Shimon?
Okay, some people are comparing it to the Luigi Mangione murders, in that it seems to be an ideologically motivated and targeted attempt at terror rather than the old school sort of mass shootings, sadly often that take place often at schools. The gunman was apparently targeting the NFL offices and went to the wrong location, some people are saying, although I thought that where he ended up had a bunch of like sort of global corporate entities in it. Let's have a look at I guess you lot are interested because it's just talking about race, and you've noticed probably that the legacy media don't report on the racial identity of a assailant if he's not white. Let's get into that. Let's have a look at this piece of legacy media reporting.
Back to that national news as the investigation into the deadly shooting continues in New York City.
Yeah, police say 4 people, including an NYPD officer, were shot and killed. Another was hurt when a man opened fire inside of a Manhattan office building. CBS News correspondent Bradley Blackburn joining us live now from the...
It's actually, we should say Bradley Whiteburn because, you know, it's racist otherwise.
Live now from the scene. Bradley, we've seen videos now of police in Las Vegas searching the suspect's home. Since we last talked to you, are we hearing anything new about a possible motive?
Alona, Jacob, we know from New York City's mayor that this suspect, this shooter, was found with a note yesterday, where he blamed the attack on his belief that he had CTE, the brain condition that we have seen in some NFL players. He claimed he was suffering from that and that he blamed the NFL for it. The NFL, one of the companies headquartered in this Midtown building. There is evidence that this shooter was a standout high school player, but no evidence that he ever attempted to play for the NFL or had an NFL career. But certainly authorities are looking at all the details here to get a more complete picture of why this shooter came here and what was driving him. And the NFL overnight said they are stepping up security, even though officials say that this was a lone wolf attack and there's no ongoing threat to the public.
Wow, and he drove cross country to get there too. Okay, Bradley, what do we know about the victims of the shooting?
We are learning more about these 4 victims, including one who is a Blackstone employee. That company confirming that this morning. And we're also learning more about the NYPD officer who was shot and killed, Officer Diderel Islam. He's a 36-year-old man, a 3.5-year veteran of the force, Jacob. And the mayor praised him overnight, said he was defending the city when this happened. And we have learned that he was a married father of 2 young boys, and his wife is now expecting their 3rd child. So she is among the many families that are grieving this morning, Jacob.
Wow.
Heartbreaking to hear those details. And Bradley, earlier this morning, you told us that, you know, this morning, of course, it's New York. We see everybody going about their business as usual. Some employees were returning to office buildings there in Midtown. Did they seem at all concerned about returning to work today?
Ilona, it's striking that just around here it's business as usual in some senses. There's a lot of traffic on the streets. The sidewalks are open. People are returning to the office buildings here. But we also know that it wasn't just this building that was affected yesterday. Multiple buildings in this area were locked down for hours. So this was a traumatic experience for thousands and thousands of Midtown office workers. This is one of the busiest office sectors in the entire country. And we know that in some cases, companies are telling their employees to work from home or take the day off today as this whole city grapples with this tragic event.
We can only imagine. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, we don't really want to contribute to the politicisation of this sad shooting. Unheard have commented that already the tragedy is being used to discredit Mamdani's mayoral bid. Can somebody in Uganda please wake Zoran up? A cop is dead, tweeted the Fox News writer David Marcus, referring to Mamdani's trip to his land of birth to celebrate his wedding. In 2020, Mamdani called for the defunding of the police. All right, let's have a look at, I suppose, for a minute, let's pay attention to the ongoing and potentially pivotal Epstein files. You know, in spite of Trump's entreaty that we forget about it and it don't matter, people are still pretty interested, as we've said on this show before, because it forms a kind of locus of how deep state power might operate. Are there sets of individuals that have been blackmailed, shamed, I suppose is the word, through sexual conduct that's been recorded or otherwise documented that's subsequently used against them? I guess that's what most people think that the Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell case refers to and points to. And unless we find a way of dealing with our shame, our sin and brokenness, these kind of levers will be used against corrupted and corruptible human beings who are all fallen and broken, if you ask me. Trump's answered a bunch of questions on the subject, but I'm pretty interested to see that Joe Rogan said that he knew that Kash Patel was lying on the subject of Epstein when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. Let's have a look at Rogan's testimony, forgive the word here, and then we'll look at what Trump said in a recent conversation where he answered a load of questions on the subject.
The Epstein stuff is so crazy because when Kash Patel was on here and he was like, there's nothing. And I was like, what are you talking? Yeah. I didn't even know what to say. My thought was, and people are like, why didn't you push back more? My thought was like, I'm just going to put this out there and let the internet do its work. Because there's nothing I can... The guy's saying there's no tapes, there's no video. That doesn't make any sense. Everyone knows it doesn't make any sense. Let's just... And then he didn't know about the Michael Baden stuff, the autopsy stuff, where it showed that he had 3 broken bones in his neck, which never happens when you hang yourself. Even when you like leap from somewhere with a rope around your neck and it snaps your neck, you never have 3 broken bones.
He's in a prison cell. He's not launching himself off the first floor balcony.
Okay, let's see what. So, like, Joe Rogan continues to point out that there are pretty glaring inconsistencies when it comes to this Epstein case. And I often feel like when something don't make sense, it's because there's a concealed iceberg of data that without the revelation thereof, it will continue to be a sort of a muddled and confusing story. I remember there's a bunch of high profile stories. In fact, all of them. That category of conspiracy theory stories, whether it's 9/11, the murder of JFK, the handling of COVID, UFOs, the Clintons and all the suicides, the reason there are these anomalies is because there's a concealed set of facts that were they revealed, it would all make sense. And I guess that's the case in this, the sort of conspiracy theory de la jour, the defining conspiracy theory of the Trump era. And the reason it's become so important is because it suggests that whether or not you vote for a populist and powerful and well-supported leader like Donald Trump, you still have an avenue of institutional powers that you cannot access. And I think that's really frustrating for a lot of people. All the more so after we covered the Bongino story the other day, when you get sort of weird cryptic posts where someone like Bongino who's lived in both worlds, this world of stay free, free speech, contemporary independent media, and now he's within them institutions of power, and he seemingly is stymied by the same interests and limitations. And I suppose what that does is it makes you wonder if the appointment of Dan Bongino was a kind of tactical appointment, precisely for that reason. Let's have because he's credible. Let's have a look at Trump fielding a bunch of questions. If you're watching us on YouTube, click the link in the description. We can't speak this freely on YouTube, who are themselves avowed members of the Trusted News Initiative organization that align when it comes to reporting on a story. Whenever you see a news story reported on in unison by a variety of outlets, it's likely been through that filter. Facebook, YouTube, the BBC, the New York Times, they're all part of this kind of cartel of media outlets that have definitely got skin in the game when it comes to reporting on independent media. Of course, they want more censorship because it will benefit them, because the rise of independent media is in part as a result of the unwillingness of central media organizations to report openly on complex news stories, indeed, like the Epstein files. So if you've been paying attention to someone like Whitney Webb, who has been honest and candid and intrepid, reporting in